Hi guys, this is my first leg workout after some time off from some injuries, and there's 6 different exercises. All of them have 8 reps except for the one, and you want to make sure that you warm up first for about 5 to 10 minutes before you start. And this is round 1. These are the body weight squats, 8 reps, and I hadn't worked out in a while. I had about 4.5 months off, and it felt really unstable to stand, or even to do this, to do lunges, and to stand on it just by itself. And I could not do lunges at first. The squats didn't bother me so much because my knee didn't hurt. It just felt really unstable. You can use a lightweight if you want to. You can even use weights on the other exercises too if you want to. I didn't want to just because, but it was enough to last 2 days, and I felt everything. I felt my quads, but mostly my hamstrings and my glutes, which I was kind of surprised just holding a hammer a little bit, but you really get a good hip flexor stretch. So I was really focusing on going slow and just really a real stable surface. It was a little unstable because it would kind of mash in a little bit, and my knee felt really good. It didn't bother me at all, so I was happy to lower myself down and push myself up. And as we get to the end of the video, on the 5th round, I kind of explained some common mistakes with, I think it was the squats and the stiff-legged deadlifts. So yeah, just with any type of lunge or squat that you're doing, you always want to make sure that you keep your head up, your chin up, chest up. So here's the stiff-legged deadlifts again. And same thing with this, and you'll see it later in the video, some bad form with this, but right now my legs are straight. That's why they're stiff-legged deadlifts, so you're keeping your legs stiff and straight. I usually use 2, but anything that you can kind of kick, and you want to stay forward, and it's kind of a good cardio core. You feel your core, especially if you stay forward. You don't want to lean back. And I just kind of took it easy, especially on the first 2 rounds or so, just because kicking into the bag like that, I didn't want to put too much pressure on my knee kicking in, and I just wanted downs. But I was just trying to really listen to my body and not push it too hard. If you have injuries, you want to make sure that you listen to your body first, and if something's not feeling right, you want to stop. You don't want to try to push through it. The no pain, no gain doesn't include injury pain. It's pain of the burn when you're working out. So yeah, you need to go through that burn, but when something's injured and it's not feeling right, you need to stop and not push through it, because you could injure yourself more, and then it'll take longer. So this is the start of round 3. It'll take longer to heal. So I like to squat really deep. Not everybody can squat this deep, and you don't have to squat this deep. The deeper that you squat, though, and go past parallel too. So especially on these stiff-legged deadlifts too, you want to keep your head up and your back flat. And the goal isn't to try to reach the ground. And then here are the step lunges here. I focused on going a little deeper. And with these, if you stand farther back, you'll get even more of a stretch in your hip flexor. So I'm stepping back farther there. And here's the step ups. And on and that would be that for me. That would be about the stance that I would take to do a regular squat. I would call that more of like a medium stance. you have your close stance, your medium stance, and your wide stance. Your close stance. Anyway, you have your close stance, medium stance, and wide stance. Close stance hits the outer quad. Wide stance hits more of the inner quad. And then your medium stance. For me, that's my strong stance. That's usually what you... for me, that's where I lift the strongest. So if I'm lifting heavy or squatting heavy, it's more of a medium stance. But anytime you vary, and I put up a back video to anytime you vary your grip or your stance in whatever you're training, anytime you change it, you're going to add depth and dimension to that muscle. You know, so if you always train with a, say, a wide stance, you know, you're going to leave out some other muscles in your legs. I mean, you can get them with other exercises, but like for leg stuff, when I was training hard and heavy competing, I used to like to vary my stances. I just think, you know, and not doing the same thing every time. So I think it's always good to change it up, because even though you're hitting the same muscle group, it just gives more of a three-dimensional round look, more complete look to the muscle. So like if I was doing squats, I might do a medium leg press and then just kind of mix it up. So they're all for your legs, those 3 exercises, but I vary my stance. Mistakes coming up here for the squat. Common mistakes. So one common mistake is trying to go too deep, and you go too deep and then lose that flatness in your back and your back rounds. So yeah, you're but lowering the hammer down, and I'm moving more from my back, my lower back, than my glutes. So that's what I was thinking of when I was doing this, to show you what a lot of people do. They just lower the weight. They're going through a motion to lower the weight, and a lot of times you shift it to your lower back instead of feeling your glutes. Yeah, you can get down deeper that way, but the goal isn't to get down deeper. The goal, see, I'm rotating. I can reach the ground closer. I'm rotating from my back. But if you keep your chin up and your back stays flat, I can only go about there, and then I feel the tightness in my hamstrings and glutes. I feel the stretch, and now I'm rotating from my glutes. You can see the rotation part is my glutes right there, and that's my focus. My focus is to get the contraction at the top like that and push my hips forward and keep my chin up as I go down at my back flat. I'm getting a really good stretch. So the goal isn't to try to reach the ground. The goal is to feel your hamstrings and your glutes. So when you stay arched up like that, you're going to feel a stretch in your hamstrings and glutes a lot faster than if you let your back round and touch the ground. You can obviously go down farther that way, but that's not the goal. And here, I'm standing back a little bit farther. I'm really getting a stretch in my hip flexors. And here you want to try to stay up to any leg thing that you do. It's really important. Keep your chin up, head up, back flat. Stay upright, stay straight so you don't put pressure on your lower back. So if you feel your lower back when you do legs, it could be because of that. Just pay attention to that. Here, I'm going a little bit faster because my knee was feeling pretty good. So to make this more intense, you can speed it up a little bit, or you can use weights. And I did pretty good. My knee didn't bother me. This is mouse. Did you see that tongue? Right here, I'm stretching afterwards, so you can stretch in between rounds if you want to, or you can wait and stretch to the end. I didn't really get super pumped or tight, so I just waited till the end. And here, I'm standing away from the bag, and when I stretched my right leg, I stood up against the bag. I propped my leg up against the bag at first just to make sure it was going to be stable, and right here I'm shifting to really focus and pay attention. And so that was a good quad stretch, and this is a good hamstring stretch. And you know, you don't want to, when you stretch too, you don't want to force it too far to where it's making you hold your breath. You want to go just to the point to where you feel the tightness, and go to that point so you can still breathe. And if you breathe into the muscle that you're stretching, you'll feel it loosen up, and then you can push it down a little bit farther. So you want to ease into your stretching. I see some people stretch sometimes and they really try to force it, and when you force it, it makes you hold your breath, and when you're holding your breath and not breathing, the muscle stays tight and it doesn't loosen up. So you want to make sure you ease into it. And this is my last stretch here, and I felt really good, and I did get sore, like I said, for 2 days.